Karl Patterson Schmidt was an American herpetologist. Family. Schmidt was the son of George W. Schmidt and Margaret Patterson Schmidt. George W. Schmidt was a German professor who, at the time of Karl Schmidt's birth, was teaching in Lake Forest, Illinois. His family left the city in 1907 and settled in Wisconsin. They worked on a farm near Stanley, Wisconsin, where his mother and his younger brother died in a fire on August 7, 1935. The brother, Franklin J. W. Schmidt, had been prominent in the then new field of wildlife management. Karl Schmidt married Margaret Whiteman in 1919, and they had two sons, John and Robert. Education. In 1913, Schmidt entered Cornell University to study biology and geology. In 1915, he discovered his preference for herpetology during a 4-month training course at the Purdy Oil Company in Louisiana. In 1916, he received the degree of Bachelor of Arts and made his first geological expedition to Santo Domingo. In 1952, he was awarded an honorary Doctor of Science degree by Earlham College. Career. From 1916 to 1922, he worked as scientific assistant in herpetology at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. Under the well-known American herpetologists Mary Cynthia Dickerson and Gladwin K. Noble, he made his first collecting expedition to Puerto Rico in 1919, then became the assistant curator of reptiles and amphibians at the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago in 1922. From 1923 to 1934, he made several collecting expeditions for that museum to Central and South America, which took him to Honduras, Brazil and Guatemala. In 1937, he became the editor of the Herpetology and Ichthyology journal Copia, a post he occupied until 1949. In 1938, he served in the U.S. Army. He became the chief curator of zoology at the Field Museum in 1941, where he remained until his retirement in 1955. From 1942 to 1946, he was the president of the American Society of Ichthyologists and Herpetologists. In 1953, he made his last expedition, which was to Israel. Self-documentation of his death. Schmidt died in 1957 after being bitten by a juvenile boomslang snake. He wrongly believed that it could not produce a fatal dose. Following the bite, he made detailed notes on the symptoms he experienced almost right up to the end. Schmidt was asked just a few hours before he died if he wanted medical care, but he refused because it would upset the symptoms he was documenting. Boomslang venom works by causing so many small clots in the blood that the victim loses the ability to clot further and bleeds to death. He died 24 hours after the bite, bleeding in his lungs, kidneys, heart, and brain. Marilyn Perkins, who was then the director of the Lincoln Park Zoo, had sent the snake to Schmidt's lab at the Field Museum in Chicago for identification. Legacy. Schmidt was one of the most important herpetologists in the 20th century. Though he made only a few important discoveries by himself, he named more than 200 species and was a leading expert on coral snakes. His donation of over 15,000 titles of herpetological literature formed the foundation for the Karl P. Schmidt Memorial Herpetological Library located at the Field Museum. His writings reveal that he was generally a solid supporter of a W.D. Matthew brand of dispersalism of species, taxa, species and subspecies named for Karl Schmidt. Many species and subspecies of amphibians and reptiles are named in his honor, including the following: Acanthodactylus schmidti hasp 1957, Afrotyphlops schmidti, Amphisparena schmidti gans 1964, Aspidoscelis hyperithrischmiti van den Bruggen Amp, Sleven, 1921. Batrituperus Karl Schmidt Lu, 1950. Calamaria Schmidt Marx and Amp, Ingup, 1955. Conifenes Schmidt Bailey, 1937. Eleutherodactylus Karl Schmidt C. Grant, 1931. Emia Schmidt W. Brown, 1954. Larissa Karl Schmidt, Leolimus Schmidt, Pseudixnidon Karl Schmidt Pope, 1928. Cinchella Schmidt Barber, 1927. Thrasops Schmidt Loveridge, 1936. Tribulinotus Schmidt Burt, 1930. Urosaurus ornatus Schmidt, Varanus Karl Schmidt Mertens, 1951. Some taxa described by Karl Schmidt. Batrituperus terbetinus K. P. Schmidt, 1929. Eleutherodactylus whitemani K. P. Schmidt, 1920. Varanus albigillaris angolensis K. P. Schmidt, 1933. Leptopelus parvus K. P. Schmidt and Amp, Ingup, 1959. Neurigus kaiseri K. P. Schmidt, 1952. Publications. He wrote more than 200 articles and books, including Living Reptiles of the World, which became an international bestseller. Books 1933 Amphibians and Reptiles collected by the Smithsonian Biological Survey of the Panama Canal Zone. 1934 Homes and Habits of Wild Animals. 1938 Our Friendly Animals and When They Came. 1941 Field Book of Snakes of the United States and Canada with Delbert White Davis. 1949 Principles of Animal Ecology with Warder Clyde Lee and Alfred Edwards Emerson. 1951 Ecological Animal Geography, an authorized, rewritten edition with Warder Clyde Lee, based on Tia Geography of Ökologische Grundlage by Richard Hess. 2nd, John Wiley and Amp, Sons, New York. 1953 A Checklist of North American Amphibians and Reptiles. 1957 Living Reptiles of the World with Robert Frederick Inger. Other publications Schmidt, Karl P. 1925. New Reptiles and a Salamander from China. American Museum Novitates No. 157. Schmidt, Karl P. 1930. Reptiles of Marshall Field North Arabian Desert Expeditions. 1927-1928. Field Museum of Natural History Publication 273, Zoological Series Volume 17, No. 6, p. 223-230. Schmidt, Karl P. and Shannon F. A. 1947. Notes on Amphibians and Reptiles of Michoacán, Mexico. Field Yarn Azul.